We're on Daf Kuf Nun Ches Amud Beis, the Shir of Yud Aleph Kislev. Now Yud Kislev's Shir, which was Kuf Nun Ches Amud Aleph, talked about the question. Question is, we say that Torah, specifically halachas HaTorah, come down to this world with no shini from Atzilus. Even though the Torah is the Ruchnius, Torah Oyer, and Ruchnius always say Tzimtzum. So the Rebbe answers basically as follows: that all the Nivraim, all the creations, they may come down through the Eir HaNeshama, but the Eir HaNeshama is Mislabish and the Eir Nefesh Ruach. And Eir Nefesh Ruach is Nivraim, it's not Alakus, it's Ma'alam U'Master. Torah comes down from Matzilus into the Eir Neshama of Bia, and it doesn't go into the Eir Nefesh Ruach. It remains in the Eir Neshama. And again, I believe that the reason for the difference has to do with higher. That all of the Nivraim come from Chitzenius of Kelim of Malchus Atzilus. So even when they go into Eir Neshama, they're destined to be Mislavish later in Eir Nefesh Ruach. Mashenki Torah is a much higher inyan. And he also mentions that the real Shadish of Torah is Chochmei Allah. Now he adds another point. V'atam, the reason for this difference, Mishum the Chabad Asiyah, the Bechinas Neshama, the Chabad of Asiyah and the level of Neshama, which is Alakus, He Mekeir Achayas is the root of life, the Chabad, the Nefesh Ruach, of the two levels, Nefesh and Ruach. Now remember, Neshama is Alakus, and Nefesh Ruach is Nivra. We tell they say and their offspring. The Yesavutan, and the way they are created, is Me'ayin L'yesh. From a way of Yesh Ma'ayin. Ma'ayin Yesh means, Hel and V'hester Abeinim HaNivra. You don't see the connection between the creation and its creator. Im tell the same with their offspring, at Seifa Asiyah, till the end of Asiyah, He Ha'aretz, which is the earth, V'chol Tzva, and all of its hosts. So Itaka comes from Eir HaNeshama, but it's mislabish and nefesh ruach. The nekuda that he's saying is, Eir HaNeshama is like an in-between situation, right? Eir HaNeshama is alakus and gavul. Eir HaNeshama gives chayes to the worlds of Bria, Yitzir, and Asiyah. Eir HaNeshama itself is godliness, but it goes into the worlds, and when it goes into the worlds, it becomes yesh me'ayin. Yesh me'ayin means the worlds exist in a way. The lashon is Hel and V'hester Abeinim HaNivra. They don't know their source. Because the godliness is concealed in them. This is called the Gilui, the slapshas of Eir HaNeshama in Eir Nefesh Ruach. The question is, how is Torah different? So he says the answer. The answer is, because Torah, look at the words inside, he says, Avol Chabad, Mamish, almost the beginning of the shir, Avol Chabad, the Hilchesein, the Chabad of the halachas, b'tameim with their reasons. Sheba Malchus the Bria v'Yetzira, the way they come down into Malchus the Bria Yetzira, says the Rebbe, Inyan HaChochmei, the source of this Chochmah is B'tikkun Patzifei Atzilus, the root of Patzifei Atzilus. I want to tell you something. Eir HaNeshama is Alakus and Gevul, okay? Atzilus is Ein Sof. He says, you have to understand, Eir HaNeshama is godliness. Torah is not Eir HaNeshama. Torah is Atzilus, which is higher than Eir HaNeshama. In other words, the difference between Torah and Eir HaNeshama means the light of Hashem, which is limited. Atzilus is Ein Sof. The Chochmah of Atzilus, which is Ein Sof, is Mislabish and the Eir HaNeshama. So the Eir HaNeshama is carrying a godliness which is much bigger than itself. Now, in addition, the Eir HaNeshama is also carrying the possibility to create worlds. And Eir HaNeshama is godliness. But since the worlds are only coming from Eir HaNeshama itself, not from the godliness of Atzilus, so when Eir HaNeshama comes to a lower level, it's Mislabish, Eir Nefesh Ruach, and it's Ma'alam U'Master. Let's read it inside. Aval, however, Chabad, the halachas b'tameim. I see almost at the beginning of the Chabad, with the halachas and their reasons. And I'm going to assume halachas means the dinim. And tameim means the side. That we said before, that side by the halachas and side by the side, the mehus of atzilus is nimshach lamata. Sheba malchus of Yitzir, the way they come into Bria Yitzir of malchus of Yitzir, that even though malchus of Yitzir is the lowest level, over there they continue to be godliness. Says the Rebbe, the reason for this is because inyan ha-chochma, the idea of Torah, he b'tikkun b'tzifei atzilus. It has to do with atzilus. In other words, Torah is Ein Sof. Torah is not Eir HaNeshama. Torah is Ein Sof. So when Torah is mislabish in Eir HaNeshama, it remains godliness because of its source in Ein Sof. Okay? Shebehen, in the parts of Atzilus, and the Madrega of Atzilus, which is Ein Sof Tluyin, depend, Kol Taimei HaMitzvahs, all the reasons for mitzvahs say Behei Chasadim, or mitzvahs leis Behei Gevuros. The mitzvahs say in the 5 Chasadim, and the mitzvahs leis in the Havai Gevuros. The Mishum Hachi Nami, and therefore also. Kishayadu L'Slavid Ben Avram, when they come into the lower levels, Hein B'Malchus, the Bria V'Yetzira, they may come all the way to Malchus, the Bria and Yetzira, but even in Malchus of Bria Yetzira, they remain the Bechinas Neshama, the level of godliness Dafke. Shumi Kalim, the Atzilus, because it comes directly from the Kalim of Atzilus. The point being that the Kalim of Atzilus are revealed in them. Everything comes from the Kalim of Atzilus. But Nefesh Ruach comes from the Kalim of Atzilus and the Ve'im Yayin Liyesh. They come from the Kalim of Atzilus in a way that the Kalim of Atzilus are revealed in them, but like Bechinas Nefesh Ruach. So he's adding really a second chilik between Taita and everything else. In the previous year, we said the Mila of Taita, everything else, the Taita is Eiran Neshama. And everything else, the Eiran Neshama is Mislabish, Eiran Nefesh Ruach. Eiran Nefesh Ruach is Nivra, so Eiran Neshama becomes hidden in Nefesh Ruach, that's called Mi'ayin Liyesh. But now he's saying Hagufa Kasha. Why is it that the Taita comes into Malchus and remains Eiran Neshama, and the rest of the creations come into Malchus and become Eiran Nefesh Ruach? Because of the Shadish of Taita is in Ein Sof as in Atzilus. And since the Shadish of Taita is in the Ein Sof of Atzilus, when it goes into the Eiran Neshama, it remains Eiran Neshama, doesn't get hidden and lost in the Eiran Nefesh Ruach. Fact that I say, after Chabad the Bria Yetzira, you have a middle step between Atzilus and Malchus of Bria. You have a middle step. What's the middle step between Atzilus and Malchus of Bria? Chabad of Bria. You have Atzilus, you have Bria, you have Yetzira, you have Asiyah. Every world has a Malchus. Malchus of Bria, Malchus of Yetzira, Malchus of Asiyah. In Malchus of Bria, the Taita remains Eiran Neshama, everything else becomes Eiran Nefesh Ruach. In Malchus of Yetzira, the Taita remains Eiran Neshama, everything else becomes Eiran Nefesh Ruach. In Malchus of Asiyah, everything Neshama, Taita remains Eiran Neshama. But higher than that, you have Chochmah, Chabad of Bria itself, Chabad of Yetzira itself, which gets directly from Eiran Neshama. So he says, after Chabad the Bria Yetzira, the Chabad of Bria Yetzira themselves, the Bechinas Neshama, which are still Neshama, because the place where the Hislaptus of Eiran Neshama and Eiran Nefesh Ruach is going to take place. For it to be Mi'ayin Liyesh is going to be only in Malchus. Shegova Me'ed Malasan is a much higher level. Al Bechinas Malchus of Yetzira the Neshama. Over the Neshama of Malchus of Yetzira. He says, listen to me. Everything in this world comes through the 10 spheres. Everything in Bria comes through the 10 spheres of Bria. Everything in Yetzira comes through the 10 spheres of Yetzira. The way it comes through the 10 spheres of Bria, everything is Eiran Neshama, not just the Taita, everything. When it comes into Malchus, the Eiran Neshama of everything is now going to somehow split. Some of it is going to be Mislabish Eiran Nefesh Ruach to create the worlds of Bria and Yetzirah, Derech Me'ayin Liyesh. Some of it is Mislabish in the Taita, which is going to remain Eiran Neshama. I don't understand. In Chabad of Bria, in Chabad of Yetzirah, everything was part of Eiran Neshama. Okay? The Alpha became nevertheless, Hein, Chabad of Bria itself, and Chabad of Yetzirah itself, it's Mokal Chabad of Bria, Yetzirah, Shal Bechinas Nefesh Ruach Shein HaMalachim, will come down to Chabad of Malchus of Bria Yetzirah, and be the Chayes Nefesh Ruach, which is the Malachim. So the question is, in Chabad of Bria, you have only one light, Eiran Neshama. So how does it happen? When this Eiran Neshama is going to come down, when it comes to Taita, it's going to continue being Eiran Neshama. And when it comes to everything else, it's going to become Eiran Nefesh Ruach. So the Alter Rebbe says, like Koshamidi, it's not a question. Because the truth of the matter is that a malachim and neshamas, the malachim and neshamas ain't elamiti, but they come from a seed. Hanamshechas mechabad, the neshama comes from the chabad of Bria's neshama. Liyaseid zot, the yaseid of midas. V'nitin lenukva, and then it comes into nukva, b'derech hashpah of zachar and nekeva. Umisham yatzu, and then it's born. The bechinas laid in a way that's considered birth, and birth means miyayin liyesh. Ki av im timtza leimar. And even if you're going to say that they were created from Kelim of Atzilus, when they come into Bria, they become only Neshama, and they don't remain Ein Sof. In other words, what I think he just said is that, of course, in Eiran Neshama, everything is godliness, but when it comes into Malchus, it has to be created. Most Nevrayim, when they come into Malchus, they're created Mi'ayin Liyesh. Taita, when it comes into Malchus, remains Alakus. And it has to do with the shadish of Taita and Atzilus, which is Ein Sof. V'afim timtzaleima, right? Ki afim timtzaleima. Even if you're going to say, Shenivim yaris, I can't look with Atzilus, that the shadish of the world is from Malchus of Atzilus, and if it's Atzilus l'chayre, it should remain the same in Bria. He says, all the other creations come from Atzilus, and to Bria become Neshama. Taita comes from Atzilus, and the Bria remains Atzilus. Aval atzmos Chabad, the Neshama, the essence is Chabad, the Neshama. In Bria, which it remains as it was in Atzilus. Mispashet v'avksavas the Zun expands in the 6 points of Zun. V'shamim she says in Mishnah, that's where she says the Mishnah, or Gemara and the Gemara. I think what he's saying is that in Atzilus itself, there's a chiluk between Teda and the rest of the world. In Atzilus itself, Teda is from the Ein Sof of Atzilus, Chabad of Atzilus, and everything else is a lower madrege. And therefore, when it comes into the Eira and Neshama, even though they're both godliness, but when they come down to Malchus, Malachim and Neshamas are created b'derech yesh mayayin, and the Teda remains a gili of Elokus, even in B'riyah Tzir and Asiyah. I'm not sure I told you the correct shot. That's all I can do.